There is a place on Earth that looks more like a memory than a real location. A land where mountains rise straight out of the ocean, where rivers glow turquoise, and where the night sky is filled with more stars than darkness. A place where glaciers carve valleys as deep as stories, where waterfalls fall from cliffs taller than cities, and where one single tree standing in a lake has become a symbol for dreams. A landscape so magical that filmmakers used it to represent other worlds, because our own world didn't seem fantastical enough. This is not a fantasy. It is real. Welcome to New Zealand's South Island, the most magical landscape on Earth. New Zealand's South Island sits almost alone, isolated in the South Pacific, far from the continents of the world. It is a young land, geologically speaking. Still rising, still shifting, still being rewritten by the forces beneath it. Two great tectonic plates meet beneath this island. Their collision lifts mountains, opens valleys, and fuels the slow, powerful violence that has shaped this place for millions of years. The result is a landscape that feels too dramatic to be accidental. Here, the Earth wears no mask. You can see how it was built. Long before maps were drawn, this land already had a name. To the Māori, it was part of Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud. Their ancestors crossed the vast Pacific Ocean in wooden canoes, navigating by stars, swell, and the flight of birds. When they reached the South Island, they found a world unlike anything they had ever known. Jagged peaks, deep fjords, glaciers, raging rivers, and forests so dense they seemed endless. They gave names to the mountains and valleys, not as labels, but as stories. Aoraki, the cloud piercer, the highest peak of them all, was not just a mountain. He was a person, an ancestor turned to stone. In Māori legend, Aoraki and his brothers were voyagers whose canoe struck a reef. Their vessel tilted, froze, and became the South Island. The brothers themselves turned into mountains, Aoraki becoming the tallest. This is how the South Island was woven into story long before it was written into geography. At the southwestern edge of the island lies a region so wild that even today most of it has never been settled. Fiordland. Here the land is not gentle. It is cut open, torn by glaciers, drowned by the sea. Fjords are deep, narrow valleys carved by ancient ice and later flooded by the ocean. In Fiordland, these valleys are so steep that cliffs rise directly from the water like walls of a lost fortress. This is where you find Milford Sound, often called the eighth wonder of the world. Waterfalls fall from heights so great that the wind blows them back upward. Sheer rock faces plunge hundreds of meters into dark, glacial water. In calm weather, the surface of the fjord turns into a mirror, doubling the cliffs, doubling the sky, doubling the sense of something impossible. Dolphins, seals, and sometimes even penguins move silently through the water below. Above, mist clings to the peaks, drifting like breath from a sleeping giant. Fiordland is one of the wettest places on Earth. Storms arrive suddenly. Rain falls in corridors between the cliffs, and temporary waterfalls burst into life like veins of silver. It is a place that makes humans feel very small. At the heart of the South Island stands its greatest peak, Aoraki, Mount Cook. At 3,724 meters, it rises above the southern Alps like a sharpened blade. Surrounded by glaciers and ridges of snow, Aoraki is both beautiful and unforgiving. Māori tradition treats this mountain as sacred, an ancestor, a presence deserving of respect and humility. Even today, climbers who attempt its slopes know that the mountain chooses the terms. At its feet lie long, milky blue glacial lakes filled with icebergs that drift slowly towards the shore. The water here is not clear. It is opaque, charged with rock flour, finely ground stone created by the grinding force of ice. On a still day, these lakes reflect the entire mountain range, turning the world upside down. And at night, the sky above Aoraki explodes with stars. The South Island hosts some of the darkest skies on the planet, protected as an international dark sky reserve. Under this sky, the Milky Way appears not as a concept, but as a river of light. South of Aoraki, two lakes shine like liquid gemstones, Lake Tekapo and Lake Pukaki. From above, they glow in shades of turquoise so bright, they look unreal. Their color comes from tiny particles of rock carried down by glacial meltwater. These particles scatter sunlight in a way that turns the water into a glowing pastel blue. On the shore of Lake Tekapo, spring brings fields of lupins, flowers in pink, purple, and blue that transform the landscape into something that looks painted. At night, Lake Tekapo becomes one of the best places in the world to look up. Here, you can see the Southern Cross, the Magellanic Clouds, and on rare nights, even the Southern Lights, Aurora Australis, faint green and red curtains dancing on the horizon. Queenstown, a town wrapped around a deep blue lake, surrounded by peaks called the Remarkables, a name that somehow feels too small for what they actually are. Queenstown calls itself the adventure capital of the world, and it has earned the title. Here, you can jump from bridges for the ultimate bungee experience, fly in small planes between mountains, paraglide, ski, hike, and sail all in the same week. The town is fueled by adrenaline and the raw energy of its setting. Yet beyond the adrenaline, it is the setting that leaves the deepest mark. Golden hills at sunset, snow-dusted peaks in winter, and the calm surface of Lake Wakatipu holding the reflections of it all. According to Māori legend, the lake itself was formed by the burning of a sleeping giant. His heart, still beating in the depths, is said to be the reason the lake level rises and falls. Even in its myths, this land moves. Not far from Queenstown lies a quieter town with a now famous symbol, Wanaka, a calm lake surrounded by rolling hills and distant peaks. And in shallow water near the shore stands a single tree. Its trunk emerges from the lake, leaning slightly, branches reaching out against the backdrop of distant mountains. This tree, known simply as the Wanaka tree, has become one of the most photographed trees on Earth. Because it captures something essential about the South Island. The feeling of standing alone in a vast, wild, and beautiful world. The tree endures floods, storms, and snow. Its roots are hidden, but its presence is unmistakable, a small symbol in a huge landscape. On the west coast of the South Island, there is a strange sight. Glaciers descending almost to the level of the rainforest. Franz Josef Glacier and Fox Glacier are two of the few places in the world where ice flows so close to temperate forest and fern-covered valleys. From above, they look like frozen rivers, cracked, broken, and slowly advancing downhill. Up close, you can hear them. Ice creaks, groans, and shifts. Glaciers are always moving, even when they look still. Over the past decades, many glaciers here have retreated significantly. They are powerful, but not immortal. In their meltwater streams, you can see the story of climate written in real time. It is a visible, living lesson in geological change. The South Island is not only about landscapes, it is also about life that has adapted to this isolated world. In the alpine zones, Kia, the world's only alpine parrot, fly between ridges, intelligent and curious. Known for playing with backpacks, boots, and anything humans leave unattended. Along the coasts, you might see little blue penguins, seals resting on rocks, and on remote shores, the rare yellow-eyed penguin, one of the most endangered penguin species on Earth. And in forests and sanctuaries, New Zealand works to protect some of its most unique species, the flightless Kiwi, the ancient Aotearoa, and birds that evolved for millennia without mammalian predators. This isolation made New Zealand's wildlife extraordinary and fragile. The South Island changes character with every season. In summer, lakes glow bright blue, lupins bloom, and long days make mountains feel inviting. In autumn, golden light falls on orange trees, valleys turn warm, and quiet settles in. In winter, snow crowns the peaks, and towns like Queenstown and Wanaka transform into alpine villages, with skiing by day and frozen stars by night. In spring, the last snow melts. Rivers swell, and green races up the hillsides like a waking wave. Each season retells the same story in a different way, but the roads themselves are the greatest adventure. The drive between Queenstown and Glenorchy, or the journey through the Southern Alps, is a cinematic experience in itself. For a place that looks this magical, you might expect that visiting would be impossible. But while New Zealand is not cheap, it is more accessible than it looks. The main investment is time. On the South Island, Budget travelers can find hostels, cabins, and basic rooms ranging roughly from $40 to $90 per night. Mid-range stays and scenic lodges rise higher, especially in hotspots like Queenstown, Wanaka, and near Aoraki. Daily costs for food, fuel, and basic activities often range between $45 and $80, depending on your style of travel. Boat cruises in Milford Sound, glacier flights, and scenic tours can be more expensive, but they are experiences you remember for the rest of your life. And some of the best moments here are completely free. A quiet sunrise over a blue lake, a walk under a sky full of stars, a road that curves toward the horizon with mountains on both sides. What makes New Zealand's South Island so unforgettable is not just what you see, but how it makes you feel. The scale of the mountains, the silence of the fiords, the impossible color of the lakes, the way clouds move through the valleys like slow, living rivers. It is a place where your sense of time changes, where hours can disappear just watching light move across a ridge, or reflections tremble on the surface of the water. It reminds you that the planet we live on is far more magical than we usually see. That fantasy worlds are not only in stories, they are written into the landscapes of our own Earth. In the end, New Zealand's South Island is not just a destination, it is a feeling. A feeling of standing at the edge of something vast, ancient, and alive. Of driving a lonely road with mountains on both sides, knowing that every turn reveals a new postcard you can never fully capture. Of looking up at a sky so full of stars that for a moment you forget about cities, screens, and noise. Of realizing that our world is still wild. This is New Zealand's South Island, the most magical landscape on Earth. And there are many more wonders still waiting to be found, here on TerraQuestTV.